Hello, I am Luna, and welcome to Stories for Sleepless Nights. Here, we share tales from history, delve into fascinating myths, explore the wonders of nature, uncover inspiring biographies, ponder deep philosophy, and many other topics. Each story is crafted to help you unwind, relax, and gently drift off to sleep. If you have a story you would like to hear in a future episode, please let us know in the comments. And remember to follow us on Spotify and YouTube so you do not miss a single story. Tonight, we journey back in time to meet a remarkable group of ancient humans, the Neanderthals. Their story is full of mystery. They lived on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years, yet they disappeared, leaving us to wonder why. Their existence challenges what we think it means to be human. They were powerful, intelligent, and lived in harsh environments. Learning about them helps us understand more about our own past and our place in the world. Now, before we begin our story, let us take a moment to settle in. Find a comfortable position, whether you are lying down or sitting up. Gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, feeling your chest rise softly. Hold it for a moment, then slowly let it out, feeling your chest fall. Take another deep breath, letting it fill you with calm. And as you breathe out, feel any tension in your body begin to melt away. Just breathe naturally now, focusing on the gentle rhythm of your breath. Let your body relax completely, preparing for a peaceful night's rest as we begin our story. Our journey into the world of the Neanderthals begins in a specific time and place. Europe in the middle of the 1800s. This was a time when new ideas were bubbling up everywhere. Scientists were starting to look at the world with fresh eyes, asking big questions about where humans came from. Before this time, many people believed the Earth was only a few thousand years old. But new ideas, like deep time, were showing that the Earth and life on it had existed for millions of years. This new view opened the door for thinking about much older forms of human life, challenging beliefs that had been held for centuries. It was in this changing world that a truly remarkable discovery happened. The year was 1856. In a quiet place called the Neander Valley, or Neanderthal, near the city of Dusseldorf in Germany, limestone quarry workers were doing their daily job. They were blasting and chipping away at the rock face, cutting out large blocks of limestone. As they dug deeper into the cool, hard stone, one worker's pickaxe hit something unexpected. It was not just rock. They carefully uncovered a skull cap and several other bones. These bones were thick and heavy, unlike anything they had ever seen from a modern human. The workers, not knowing what they had found, set the bones aside. When these unusual bones were finally brought to the attention of scientists, they caused a big stir. A famous doctor named Rudolf Virchow looked at them. He was a very respected scientist, but he had a hard time accepting that these bones could belong to a different kind of ancient human. He said they belonged to a modern human, perhaps a soldier who had fought in a war, whose bones were twisted by sickness like rickets or arthritis, or perhaps a Cossack cavalryman injured during the Napoleonic Wars. But another man, Hermann Schaffhausen, a local teacher who studied nature, had a different idea. He saw the unusual features of the skull and bones, like the thick brow ridge, and believed they belonged to a very old, primitive human form. He argued that these were not bones of a sick person, but rather bones from a different kind of human, one that had lived a very long time ago. It is interesting to note that the Neander Valley discovery was not the very first time such ancient human bones had been found. Back in 1829, a skull of a young child, known as Engis II, was found in a cave in Belgium. And in 1848, another skull, called the Forbes Quarry Skull, was found in Gibraltar. However, these earlier finds were not fully understood at the time. They were simply seen as old bones. It was the discovery in the Neander Valley that truly grabbed the world's attention. It made scientists go back and look at those older finds with new eyes, realizing their true importance. This discovery was incredibly important. It helped create a whole new field of study called paleoanthropology, which is the study of ancient humans. It showed that the story of human life was not a simple, straight line. Instead, there were different kinds of humans who lived in the past. But right from the start, there was a strong prejudice against the Neanderthals because of their robust features and the scientific views of the time. They were often pictured as brutish, unintelligent, and primitive creatures, almost like apes. This early idea would stick for a very long time, making it hard for people to truly understand who the Neanderthals really were. After the initial discovery, scientists began to look closer at the actual bones of the Neanderthals. They started to build a picture of who these ancient people were, not just through guesswork, but through the hard evidence left in their skeletons. The image of a brutish, ape-like creature began to fade as more details emerged about their unique and powerful bodies. Neanderthals had a very distinct look. Their skeletons show that they were built for strength. They had robust bodies, meaning they were very sturdy and strong. Their bones were thick and dense, suggesting a life full of physical activity and heavy work. They stood about 5 feet to 5 feet and 6 inches tall, but they were very broad and muscular. Their limbs were noticeably short and stocky. This body shape, with a larger body and shorter arms and legs, was a key adaptation to the very cold climates of Ice Age Europe and Asia where they lived. Scientists have rules for this. One rule, called Bergmann's rule, explains that animals in colder places tend to have larger bodies to keep warm better. Another, Allen's rule, says that they often have shorter limbs to reduce the amount of body surface where heat can escape. The Neanderthals' build fit these rules perfectly, helping them hold onto body heat in freezing temperatures. Their heads also had very specific features. Above their eyes, they had large, bony ridges that stuck out. Their foreheads sloped back, rather than rising straight up like ours. Their mid-face, the area around the nose, also projected forward a bit. They had a broad nose and a large nasal cavity. This larger nose was likely very useful for warming and humidifying the cold, dry air they breathed before it reached their lungs, protecting them from the harsh environment. From their bone structure, we can tell that Neanderthals were incredibly strong. The places on their bones where muscles would have attached were very pronounced, showing that they had powerful muscles. This suggests a life that demanded immense physical effort, perhaps constantly moving across rugged land, carrying heavy loads, or engaging in strenuous hunts. They were clearly built to survive and thrive in a tough world, pushing their bodies hard every day. It is also important to note that Neanderthals had very large brains. In fact, their average brain size was often as large as, or even larger than, that of modern humans. brain size alone does not tell us everything about intelligence, it does suggest they had complex thinking abilities. This challenges the old idea that they were simple-minded creatures. Their large brains hint at a capacity for sophisticated thought, which we will explore more deeply later on. When we compare Neanderthals to early modern humans, or Homo sapiens, we see both similarities and clear differences. Both were human forms, walking upright and making tools. But Homo sapiens generally had lighter builds, taller and more slender bodies, and higher, more rounded foreheads without the prominent brow ridges. These differences show how two different groups of humans evolved and adapted to their own environments, each with their own unique strengths and ways of living in the world. The strong bodies of the Neanderthals, which we spoke of earlier, were not just for show. They were perfectly suited for a demanding life, a life where skill, cooperation, and cleverness were key to survival. These ancient humans developed a unique way of living, creating tools, hunting large animals, and even showing deep care for one another. One of the clearest signs of their intelligence and skill can be seen in their tools. Neanderthals were masters of a technique called the Mousterian tool industry. This was not just about picking up a sharp rock. They would take a stone, carefully shape it, and then strike it in a very specific way to get a sharp flake. These flakes were then used to make many different tools: sharp points for spears, scrapers to clean animal hides, and knives for cutting meat. The most advanced part of this was the Levallois technique. This meant they would first prepare a larger stone, almost like making a rough plan, before striking off a single, perfectly shaped flake. This showed great foresight and a deep understanding of how stone breaks, proving they were skilled craftsmen who planned their actions. These tools were essential for their hunting. Neanderthals were incredibly effective big game hunters. Picture a group of strong, sturdy individuals moving through a snowy landscape, tracking a massive woolly rhinoceros or a herd of reindeer. They did not just wait for animals to die. They actively hunted, using their thrusting spears to bring down large and dangerous prey. This kind of hunting required not only immense strength and bravery, but also clear teamwork and communication. They would work together, cornering animals, and then getting close enough to use their heavy spears. It was a dangerous life with many risks, but they were very good at it. Their diet mainly consisted of meat from these hunts. Bones found at their sites show they ate a lot of large animals, but they were also adaptable. Evidence suggests they ate plant matter, berries, and even seafood from coastlines when available. This shows they knew how to use different food sources depending on where they lived and what was around them. Beyond survival, there is also strong evidence of complex social behaviors among Neanderthals. They cared for the sick and injured. Imagine an older Neanderthal, perhaps like the famous Old Man of La Chapelloch's Saints or Shanidar I, who had a missing arm and a broken foot. Despite these severe injuries, this individual lived for many years. This could only happen if others in the group helped him, provided him with food, and protected him. This suggests a deep sense of empathy and communal support, showing that they looked out for each other, even when someone could not contribute fully to the group's survival. The idea of Neanderthal symbolism and art is a topic that scientists still discuss a lot. Some discoveries hint at a deeper, more artistic side. For example, archaeologists have found shell adornments like beads and bird claw necklaces. They have also found pieces of pigment like red ochre, which might have been used for body paint or decoration. There is even debate about whether certain finds, like carefully placed items in burials, were grave goods meant for the afterlife. Some scientists believe these objects show true symbolic thought, a way of thinking beyond just basic needs. Others suggest these actions might have been more practical, or that we are simply seeing early forms of behavior that do not quite reach the level of modern human art and symbolism. Regardless, these finds offer a fascinating glimpse into their minds and daily lives, moving beyond their strong bodies and clever tools. The true measure of Neanderthals lies in their intelligence. For many years, the image of Neanderthals was that of unintelligent, brutish cavemen. This old picture is simply not true. Evidence now shows that these ancient people possessed impressive cognitive abilities, challenging everything we once thought about them. One of the most striking facts about Neanderthals is their brain size. Their brains were often as large as, or even larger than, the brains of modern humans. Now, simply having a bigger brain does not automatically mean greater intelligence in a simple way. But a large brain does suggest that they had complex processing capabilities. It means their minds were built for intricate thought and problem solving, not just basic survival. Their problem-solving skills were clear in many aspects of their lives. We have already talked about their advanced tool-making, especially the Levallois technique, which required careful planning and foresight. Their hunting strategies for large, dangerous animals also showed great cleverness and coordination. They had to understand animal behavior, plan attacks, and work as a team, mastering fire, keeping it going, and using it for warmth, cooking, and protection was another major achievement that shows their understanding of their environment. They lived and thrived in harsh environments for hundreds of thousands of years, a testament to their deep knowledge and ability to adapt. The evidence for symbolic thought, which we touched upon before, offers even deeper insights into the Neanderthal mind. Archaeologists have found things like engraved bones with patterns, or shells that were perforated to be worn as ornaments. These items go beyond simple tools and suggest an appreciation for beauty or meaning. One of the most talked about findings is the flower burial at Shanidar Cave in Iraq. Here, a Neanderthal was found buried with what some scientists believe were clumps of wildflowers. If true, this would suggest a powerful sense of ritual, or even a belief in an afterlife. While scientists still debate if these were truly placed intentionally, or if animals carried the flowers into the cave, the discussion itself shows how much these finds make us rethink Neanderthal abilities. Finally, we consider the possibility of language. While we cannot hear their voices or find direct written proof, several clues point to some form of complex communication. Neanderthals possessed a hyoid bone in their throat, which is shaped very much like the hyoid bone in modern humans. This bone is crucial for speech production. Also, their complex social structures, their cooperative hunting, and their care for the sick and elderly would have been very difficult without some way of talking to each other. It is very likely that Neanderthals could communicate in a way that was much more advanced than simple grunts or calls, allowing them to share knowledge and plan together. After exploring the deep complexities of the Neanderthal mind, we now turn to a pivotal moment in their long history. For hundreds of thousands of years, Neanderthals were the dominant human-like species across Europe and parts of Asia. They had mastered the cold, adapted to the harsh Ice Age world, and developed their own unique culture. But then, a new group of people began to arrive, pushing out of Africa. These were anatomically modern humans, our direct ancestors, Homo sapiens. The arrival of Homo sapiens was not a sudden invasion that instantly wiped out the Neanderthals. Instead, it was a gradual process, a slow ripple spreading across continents. Modern humans began their journey out of Africa, moving into the Middle East, then further into Asia and Europe. They encountered the Neanderthals in various regions, and this period of coexistence lasted for thousands of years. For a very long time, these two distinct groups of humans lived side by side, sometimes in the same valleys, sometimes even in the same caves, though perhaps at different times of the year. They hunted the same animals, gathered the same plants, and navigated the same changing landscapes. The world was big enough for both of them, at least for a while. Then came a groundbreaking discovery that completely changed our understanding of this encounter. Scientists began to study the ancient DNA found in Neanderthal bones, comparing it to the DNA of modern humans. What they found was truly astonishing. It showed that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens had interbred. This means they had children together. Today, if you are of non-African descent, a small percentage of your DNA, typically between 1 and 4%, comes from Neanderthals. This genetic evidence is a clear fingerprint of these ancient meetings. The implications of this interbreeding are profound. It blurs the lines of what it means to be a separate species, and suggests that the interactions between Neanderthals and modern humans were far more varied and complex than just competition. They were not just rivals fighting over resources. There may have been moments of cooperation, trade, or even peaceful coexistence that led to these genetic exchanges. It paints a picture of a shared past where individuals from both groups formed bonds, perhaps out of necessity, curiosity, or even affection, and this ancient mingling left a lasting legacy within us. Scientists have found that some of the genes we inherited from Neanderthals play a role in very important aspects of our lives today. For example, some Neanderthal genes are linked to our immune system, helping us fight off certain infections. Others might have influenced traits like skin pigmentation or hair color, which could have been helpful adaptations for early modern humans moving into new environments. However, not all inherited traits were beneficial. Some Neanderthal genes might also contribute to a higher risk of certain diseases in modern humans, such as type 2 diabetes or a predisposition to nicotine addiction. This genetic inheritance is a powerful reminder that Neanderthals are not just a separate branch on the human family tree, but an integral part of our own story. While we know that Neanderthals and modern humans shared genes, a greater mystery still surrounds them. Around 40,000 to 30,000 years ago, Neanderthals vanished from the earth. After thriving for hundreds of thousands of years, they simply disappeared. What caused this disappearance, especially at a time when Homo sapiens were expanding their reach? This is one of the biggest questions in human history, and there are several ideas about what might have happened. One major idea is the competition hypothesis. This suggests that modern humans were simply better at surviving and reproducing. Perhaps Homo sapiens had more advanced tools, like spears that could be thrown from a distance, which made hunting safer and more efficient than the Neanderthals thrusting spears. Modern humans might have also had larger social networks, allowing them to share resources and information across wider areas. Imagine a group of people who can call on allies from miles away, compared to a smaller, more isolated group. This could have given modern humans an edge in finding food and shelter, especially when resources were scarce. As modern humans moved into new areas, they might have slowly pushed Neanderthals out of their best hunting grounds and caves, making it harder for Neanderthals to find enough to eat and raise their young. Another important idea points to climate change. The period when Neanderthals disappeared was a time of very rapid and harsh climate shifts. The Ice Age was not a steady cold period. It had extreme swings. Temperatures could drop or rise dramatically over just a few decades. Neanderthals were well adapted to cold, but these quick changes might have been too much. Forests could turn into open grasslands, or vice versa, in a relatively short time. Animals they hunted might have moved away, or their usual plant foods might have died out. These sudden environmental shifts would have made life incredibly difficult, even for a tough species like the Neanderthals. They may have struggled to adapt to these new, unfamiliar conditions as quickly as the environment changed around them. A third idea is the disease hypothesis. When different groups of people meet after long periods of separation, they often bring new diseases with them. Modern humans coming out of Africa might have carried pathogens that Neanderthals had never encountered. Just like when Europeans arrived in the Americas and brought diseases that Native Americans had no immunity to, Homo sapiens might have unknowingly spread illnesses that were deadly to Neanderthals. A few simple coughs or sneezes could have wiped out entire Neanderthal communities, especially if they lived in smaller, more isolated groups. Finally, there is the assimilation hypothesis. Given the evidence of interbreeding, some scientists suggest that Neanderthals didn't truly vanish, but rather were absorbed into the larger, expanding populations of Homo sapiens. As modern human groups grew in number and spread across the landscape, smaller Neanderthal groups might have interbred more and more with them. Over many generations, the distinct Neanderthal culture and genetic identity could have simply faded away, blending into the dominant Homo sapiens population. A Neanderthal child born to a modern human parent would likely grow up within the modern human culture, eventually leaving fewer and fewer individuals who identified solely as Neanderthal. It is very likely that no single reason caused the Neanderthals to disappear. Instead, it was probably a complex mix of these factors. Increased competition for food and shelter, dramatic climate changes, new diseases, and gradual interbreeding with modern humans all likely played a part. The exact combination and timing of these events remain a puzzle. Their disappearance leaves us with a profound sense of loss and an enduring mystery about the fate of our closest human relatives.